Friends, good evening. Oscar Wilde had written a marvelous short story. The name of this short story is Canterville Ghost. Canterville Ghost by Oscar Wilde. It is a story of about a ghost who haunts in a house, a Canterville chase. Horace B. Otis, a wealthy American, purchases Canterville chase and an ancient English manor house. Despite the warning that this house is known to be haunted, he moves into the house accompanied by his wife, his eldest sons, Washington, his daughter Virginia, and his two younger twin sons. Immediately upon arrival, the family is confronted by the blood stain in a sitting room. The housekeeper, Mrs. Omne, explained that this stain has been here since 1575 and is the result of Lady Eleanor de Canterville having been brutally murdered by her husband, Sir Simon de Canterville. The Otis family takes a pragmatic perspective and scrubs the stains away. They repeat the process when the stain continues to reappear every morning. The stubborn reappearance of the stain, as well as other strange occurrences around the house, leads them to consider that the house leads them. Rumor of the ghost may not be totally unfounded. These ideas are confirmed when one night the sound of clanking chains wakes Mr. Otis from his sleep. He gets out of the bed and confronts a terrifying ghost, but responded only by recommending that the ghost oil his chains so that he does not cause so much noise when he's walking around at night. Mr. Otis is not the only family member who is not afraid of the ghost. The young twins enjoy tormenting the ghost with pranks. The ghost is very proud of his tradition of terrifying visitors for hundreds of years and is determined to strike fear into the American family. However, the more and more terrifying he tries to be, the more they either make fun of or ignore him. Things hit rock bottom for the Canterville ghost when the twins actually create a fake ghost of their own to scar the real ghost. He accepts that he has lost his status and power and begins to become depressed and pine away. Meanwhile, Virginia's beauty has attracted the attention of the young Duke of Cheshire, who comes to stay at Canterville Chase. While he is visiting, Virginia unexpectedly comes across the secret hiding lair of the ghost. The ghost explains his sadness and suffering, telling her that he longs for the peaceful experience of death. He also tells her that because of her purity and innocence, she can help him to achieve this peace. Even though she is frightened, Virginia agrees to help, and the two of them passes through a secret opening in the wall and vanish. When Virginia cannot be found, her family and the Duke become very upset. A few hours later, Virginia appears in the dark at the top of the stairs. Her only explanation, her disappearance, is that she has assisted in finally bringing eternal rest to the Canterville ghost. As a token of his thanks and affection, Sir Simon has given her a box filled with jewels Virginia leads the family into a secret chamber where they were greeted by the sight of his skeletal remain. 4 days later, Sir Simon's body is finally laid to rest with a proper burial. Virginia subsequently marries the Duke of Cheshire, although she never tells anyone what she experienced when she vanished with the ghost. An experience she always reflected affectionately on him and his memory. So this is the story of the Canterville Ghost by Oscar Wilde. There are many various characters. Sir Simon Canterville, a Canterville Ghost, a main character. Sir Simon Canterville was a 16th century English aristocrat who lived at Canterville Chase, where he murdered his wife. As a result, when he died 9 years later, he became a ghost destined to haunt the house rather than moving on a peaceful afterlife. He initially enjoyed his fame and as the Canterville Ghost, but after his unpleasant encounter with Otis' family, he begins to long for peaceful repose. Virginia Otis, adolescent woman, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Otis, she became to live in Canterville Chase along with her family and is one of the few characters to show sympathy to the ghost. The Duke of Cheshire is a wealthy young English aristocrat who falls in love with and eventually marries Virginia Otis. Hiram B. Otis is a wealthy middle-aged American man who purchases Canterville Chase in order to live there with his family. He is a pragmatic and no-nonsense character, but he also seems to be quite a lenient father since he makes no attempt to discipline his children for unruly behavior. Lucretia Tappan Otis, Mrs. Otis, is the wife of Hiram Otis. Stars and strips, the two twins, the youngest Otis children, are a set of twin boys who are never named in the story, instead two as stars and strips. Washington Otis is the eldest child of Otis family. Mrs. Omni works as the housekeeper at Canterville Chase. She is initially employed by the Canterville family. Lord Canterville is an English aristocrat, the descendant of Sir Simon. At the start of the story, he sells his ancestral family home to Otis family. So these are the characters involved in this story. So we have in this story, you can see the Canterville Ghost by Oscar Wilde. It is a very interesting story. The theme of the story is the British and American culture. It is a contradiction between two cultures of the New World and the Old World runs through the story. British character like Lord Canterville, Mrs. Omni, and Canterville Ghost himself are interested in preserving the status quo, respecting traditions, and doing things according to ceremony and rituals. They tend to possess respect for the past, and also for an individual rank and status. The American Otis family, on the other hand, is skeptical, materialistic, and down to earth. They only believe in what they can see in front of them and always look for the most direct, pragmatic way to solve a problem. Theatrically and performance, Canterville Ghost can shift into a number of different forms. So tradition and heritage is also involved in this short novella, I can say. As an ancient member of Canterville family who still live in the house, the ghost represents tradition and heritage. Even though his presence can be unpleasant, it is considered to be part of Canterville family legacy and therefore is treated with respect and deference by character like Mrs. Omne. In fact, the number of people he has frightened over the centuries suggests that he is even a bit famous and sought after. Innocence, another theme involved in this. Uh, Due to her young age, sheltered upbringing, and kind hearted, Virginia Otis is a figure who represents innocence in the story. The ghost is drawn to her because he believes she will be sympathetic to his suffering, and also because he knows Virginia can help him. His sinful and corrupt past means that the angel of death will not listen to his pleas for peaceful rest in the garden of death. However, if Virginia can intercede on his behalf, he has a hope of being redeemed. Innocence is shown to be a way of lifting a curse and providing redemption. Shame, as the ghost struggle more and more, trying to strike fear onto the Otis family. He begins to feel a failure and becomes ashamed of no longer being able to provoke fear. His identity has been rooted for a long time in successfully performing his role. He finds it satisfying to know that people experience intense reaction to him. And he also feels a sense of duty and obligation toward completing his ghostly task. When his identity is threatened, the ghost first lashes out, then shrinks into shame and despair. Money and subtle and important theme in the stories. The reason Lord Canterville needs to sell his family home to Otis family in the first place is because he needs the money. At the time Wilde was writing, it was becoming increasingly common for English aristocrats to be suffering from economic trouble even while they own huge houses. Peace, at first the goose seems very satisfied with his life, creating chaos and disruption. He eventually confides that he longs for peace. He would like to be accepted into the garden of death, where he can rest quietly for eternity, knowing his sins have been forgiven. His desire for his peace leads Virginia to help him, and once he is finally laid to rest, Regan can